The Northman is the recently released revenge epic, co-written and directed by Robert Eggers. Transporting viewers to the merciless age of 10th century Iceland, it follows a Viking warrior seeking retribution for his father's murder. The director's third feature film, following 2015's The Witch and 2019's The Lighthouse, was a massive undertaking, and by far his most ambitious project yet. Featuring bold cinematography, visceral battles, Norse mythology, and outstanding performances from the cast, The Northman is a fascinating tale of revenge. Although the script was co-written by Robert Eggers and Icelandic screenwriter Sjón, the production was mostly spearheaded by Alexander Skarsgård and producer Lars Knudsen, who both had been trying to create a Viking-themed project for well over a decade. Incidentally, Eggers and his wife had just visited Iceland, and the director became enamored with the idea of making a movie set in the region. With the help of Sjón and experts in ancient Norse culture, including historians, archaeologists, and folklorists, Eggers created a story based on the Scandinavian legend of Amleth, the same inspiration as Shakespeare's classic play Hamlet.
I will avenge you, father. I will save you, mother. I will kill you if you live.
The film opens in 895 AD on the island of Thrafsni, just off the coast of the North Atlantic, where King Orvindil returns to his home village after a tiring season of battle in an amazing performance from the unrecognizable Ethan Hawke, who incidentally also played Hamlet in a 2000 film adaptation set in contemporary New York. Greeted by his young son, Prince Amleth, and his queen, Nicole Kidman's Gudrun, he adorns them with gifts and affection before his brother Fjolnir, played by Claes Bang, and baby nephew Thorir arrive. Wounded from battle, and worried that his time as king is coming to an end, Orvindil leads Amleth in a Norse ritual, aided by the jester and wise man Heimir, portrayed by Willem Dafoe. Fueled by visions of the bloody tree of kings that tracks his lineage and embracing his primal instincts, the young heir makes an oath to avenge his father and guide his family if harm should ever come to them. This is fortunate because the next morning, in an act of fratricide, Fjolnir usurps the throne, killing Orvindil and kidnapping the queen. Although he believes Amleth to be dead, the traumatized prince escapes the village by ship, vowing for vengeance against his uncle. 20 years later, having been rescued by Vikings and raised as a bloodthirsty berserker warrior, the now adult Amleth carries out a vicious raid with his kinsmen in the lush European region of Rus. After a successful pillage, Alexander Skarsgård's Amleth encounters the blind seeress, played by Björk, who reminds him of the oath he made to his father in his youth, and details a quest he must undertake to fulfill it. With his thirst for revenge reinvigorated, Amleth learns that his uncle has been banished from his throne, and now lives in exile in Iceland with Thorir, Queen Gudrun, and their young son Gunnar. Abandoning his post as a Viking warrior, he brands himself and sneaks aboard a slave ship headed for Fjolnir's remote farm. Although battered by the rough trip across the ocean, his journey is made slightly less terrible after he befriends Anya Taylor-Joy's Olga of the Birch Forest, a beautiful sorceress and slave that sees through his disguise. Arriving at the farm, Amleth and Olga work tirelessly under the command of Fjolnir and his soldiers, bonding over the mutual hardship. One night, as Amleth explores the surrounding farmland in secret, he meets a mysterious shaman who tells him of Draugr, an ancient legendary sword of immense power located nearby, fulfilling the prophecies foretold by the seeress in Rus. Amleth discovers the sword in a burial mound and obtains it after defeating its guardian in combat. Instead of killing his uncle right away, he hides the blade and awaits the moment of prophecy, using the downtime to covertly wreak havoc around the farm. Soon after, Amleth is promoted to the leader of the slaves during a trip to a neighboring chieftain's village, where he shows loyalty by protecting the young Gunnar and is granted a woman of his choosing as a reward. Of course he chooses Olga, and that night, after making love, they formulate a plan to torment Fjolnir and save Queen Gudrun. Unfortunately, things take a turn when Amleth attempts to rescue his mother, but she refuses. In a cruel twist of fate, she reveals that Orvindil was an abusive slave driver rather than a loving king, and had actually kidnapped Gudrun and forced her into motherhood, while Fjolnir was the one who truly loved her and only killed his brother because she requested it. Not only this, but she loathed Orvindil so much that she also requested the death of Amleth. Repulsed by this revelation, Amleth kills Thorir in his sleep and rips out his heart before challenging his uncle's men in a bid to save Olga from execution. Although he's defeated and captured as a result of his sword being sheathed by fate till the prophesied battle, he's rescued by the spirit of his father and Olga, but not before experiencing a vision of the Tree of Kings informing him that Olga is pregnant. Worried that unfinished deeds will come back to haunt him and his new family, he jumps ship and returns to his uncle's farm, slaughtering his soldiers, Gudrun, and his half-brother Gunnar. With his family dead and fate at his door, Fjolnir beckons the wounded Amleth to the fiery volcano of Hell, where the pair engage in a bitter fight to the death. Enraged by decades of suffering and hate, Amleth manages to slay his uncle and obtain vengeance, but is mortally wounded in the process. Bleeding out onto the ground and embracing his final moments, he's comforted by visions of Olga and his children safe as he journeys towards Valhalla. The Northman, like all of Robert Eggers' films, blends historical fact with fictitious flavor and is a prime example of how well that combination works. While the story of Amleth's revenge is plucked straight from Scandinavian legend, and the film is firmly set over 1,000 years ago, it's a riveting tale that defies the need for modernization. Every element of the movie oozes historical accuracy, even the orchestral score composed by Robin Carolyn and Sebastian Gainsborough, providing pounding and resonating accompaniment with traditional instruments like the langspiel and Swedish bagpipes, as well as vocal chants and throat singing. The music helps transport us to another world. While some have criticized Eggers' films as being a tad difficult to follow, here he presents us with a rich but straightforward revenge story. Amleth's motivations are plainly stated: to avenge his father, save his mother, and kill his uncle. In fact, we hear him repeat,
"I will avenge your father! I will save your mother! I will kill your father!
I will avenge your father. I will save your mother. I will kill your father."
multiple times, which becomes his mantra. But as he approaches his final battle, Amleth begins chanting a new mantra: "I will avenge you. I will honor our blood. I will cut the thread of fate." After embarking on his quest, his goals had changed. The new mantra represents his growth throughout the journey. After learning the truth about his mother's betrayal, he chooses honor over vengeance and restores his family name, defying fate itself. With attention to historical accuracy, including period-accurate costuming and props, the director effortlessly transports us to the age of Vikings, a world that is as barbaric and unforgiving as Amleth's lust for revenge. The morality of the main characters are muddy, and by the end, there are no traditional heroes. Despite the raw and grounded tone of the movie, there are many references to Norse mythology. Norse gods like Odin and Freyr loom over the narrative, mysticism and sorcery are prevalent, and the visions of the Tree of Kings add some Yggdrasil-esque imagery. All of this is supported by the terrific ensemble cast. As I said earlier, the amorphous Ethan Hawke is unrecognizable as a grizzled, brutal and wise warrior, blindsided by love for his family. Alexander Skarsgård has a searing intensity throughout and gives Amleth a complexity beyond vengeance. Claes Bang also makes a remarkable impression as Fjolnir. In fact, if the story was told from his perspective, he would undoubtedly be just as tragic a hero as Amleth. Anya Taylor-Joy lends both a soft touch and an element of cunning to the part of Olga, with plenty of standout scenes of her own. The same is true for Nicole Kidman, who offers a nuanced performance that is better appreciated after the late film revelation. Despite his limited screen time, Willem Dafoe is magnificent as Ymir the Fool, as is Bjork as the freaky seeress, while other one-off characters like Ingvar Sigurdsson's He-Witch Shaman are played to perfection. It just seems like everyone studied the mission briefing religiously and were committed to bringing this world to life. The cinematography, led by Jaron Blesch, is remarkably impressive, both in the epic scenes of war and subtle drama we witness. When swords clash and blood is spilt, Blasch and Eggers keep the camera tight and focused, offering several impressive one-shot sequences. The combat is exciting, but it doesn't hold back on the brutality of Viking warfare. Despite this, the violence never seems gratuitous or exploitative, sidestepping glorification in favor of graphic realism. Driven by unwavering directorial vision and a cast and crew equally dedicated to creating a steadfast mix of revenge with thematic resonance, astounding world building, history and mythology, The Northman is one of the best films to hit cinemas this year, if not one of the best movies of the past decade.